Hey, welcome back. Hey, welcome back to WCEG Talk Radio.com. Okay. Welcome back to the Worldwide Community Empowerment Group, where we speak life into the community. I am Vincent Cheeks, your host of Conversations in Education. Please give us a call with your comments or questions at 678-619-1402. Again, the number is 678-619-1402. And make sure you check us out on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, WCEG_talk_radio, and at WCEG Network. We are here, and we are here for you, the community. Thank you for your support. Okay, let's get back into these bullies with badges, as I like to call them. And let's bring Cameron into the fold. Cameron, how you doing, man?
Doing all right.
Before we get to your story, I want to get your opinion on what happened to Paul. What do you think about all of that?
In my opinion, I feel that Paul didn't do anything wrong in the situation.
Okay.
Like you said, he was just trying to go to school and get a password.
Right.
And also, like you said, taking a service dog onto the school shouldn't have been a problem in the first place. And if the officer would have just, instead of forcing himself, if he would have just took a second and asked him, he could have resolved the whole situation, and none of this would have occurred.
Communication, people. Communication is important in any relationship. Friends, lovers, relatives, student, officer. Like, if you communicate and express what it is you want or what it is you're trying to do, it'll cut out a whole lot of issues.
Right.
Okay. So, thank you for that, Cameron. So let's get into your situation, your incident. You weren't the initiator of the incident, but you were there. You witnessed the initial incident. You video recorded, and you kind of involved yourself in the incident by asking for the officer's name and badge number.
Right,
but I'm gonna let you explain all of that. So, when did your incident happen, Cameron?
I want to say back in October.
The end of October.
Yeah.
Okay. I think I saw October 26th on the video that was uploaded to.
Yeah, it might have been October 26th or the day before.
Okay. So let's go back to October, the end of October of 2019.
Yes, sir.
You are on a school bus.
Right.
Y'all are coming from school.
Yeah, on the way
home. End of the day. And tell our listening audience what happened on the way from school.
So, I'm just on the bus, like normal, on the way home, waiting to get home to get to my stop, go home, lay down,
Okay.
Me and a couple friends were just talking, everything's fine, it's a cool day and everything. We get down to about where we're about to turn on to my street, where my neighborhood is. We stop in this turning lane, and another kid on the bus points out that there was a cop outside.
Okay.
At that point, me, myself included, another student, and maybe other student, made comments towards him, such as F12.
Made comments towards the officer.
The police officer that was yes, on the side of the road, yes.
Okay.
At that point.
So wait a minute. So y'all at the light.
Right.
You're at the light, right? You
yes,
see a police officer on the side of the road.
Yeah.
And a couple of the students yell out the window F12.
Right.
And for those of you who don't know, 12 is another street term for
the police
officer.
Yes,
sir. So he was basically saying F you to the police officers. I just want to make sure that everybody understands that part.
Yeah.
So F12 is screamed out of the window, and then what happened?
After it's said out of the window, I said it. I did say it.
Okay.
And then after I said it, Mr. X said it.
Okay. And Mr. X is the young man that this whole situation is centered around.
Right.
And we're calling him Mr. X because at the time he was 14 years old and he's a minor, so we're not allowed to use the legal names of minors. So we're calling him Mr. X for the show. So Mr. X did what happened?
Okay, so I said it, Mr. X said it. Now, when I said it, nothing happened.
Okay.
But then I guess maybe I didn't say a loud enough for it to even catch the officer's attention, or I don't know what it was. But Mr. X may have said it louder and he caught attention to it.
Okay.
At that moment, we're in the turning lane at a red light.
Okay.
The officer then runs across the street and stops the bus. Gets on the bus, and at this point, he starts coming towards Mr. X.
Okay.
And he's telling him, you need to get off the bus. You need to come with me. And Mr. X he's sitting here, and he's like asking him, like, what are you charging me for, or what are you detaining me for?
Right.
What is the reason for taking me off of my school bus?
Right.
And the officer then proceeds to tell him that what he said out of the bus window, and he didn't even say towards him, he said towards two little girls that were standing outside by his vehicle. He didn't even say towards him, he said what you said to those little girls out there was wrong. And
were there little girls?
There were girls outside, yes. There was I believe maybe a lady and her two daughters, but they're not police. So anything that was said towards a police officer has no implication towards these.
Towards them.
Right.
Gotcha.
And he's trying to make it out to seem like we were speaking to them, when in no case would that be possible.
Okay, so whether you were speaking to the girls outside the bus or whether you were speaking to the officers, was what you all said criminal?
No, there was nothing criminal about saying what we said to him. That's just expressing our speech, and that's a right. Right.
So that is said. F12 is said out of the window.
Right.
He cuts the bus off so he can.
No, he doesn't move his car or anything. He just runs from his car.
Oh, he runs from his car
in front of the bus. Okay. And stops up traffic like something criminal is happening.
Right. Gotcha.
Gets on the bus. Asks Mr. X to get off, and he says, no, I need you to tell me what you're taking me off the bus for.
So did he know that Mr. X was specifically the one that said it? Or?
Yeah, he came on the bus specifically for him.
Okay, gotcha.
Because when he gets on the bus, he points at him, and he's like, you come here.
Okay.
As Mr. X is, telling him he's not going to get off the bus because he hasn't committed the crime, and if he has, it needs to be stated.
Right. Which is true.
The police officer then grabs his walkie-talkie and immediately calls for backup.
Okay.
We're standing there talking with him, conversating, asking him what he did wrong, telling him that, like, even if his feelings were hurt by it, that's not breaking the law.
Right, yeah.
He's telling us, it shouldn't have been said to those girls, and he's basically just trying to get him off the bus.
Yeah.
When the backup arrives, they pull up from across the street, blocking off the other side of the intersection.
Okay.
At this point, it's only two officers. It's the original officer got on the bus, and then another officer in full uniform, like vest and everything.
Gotcha.
He then gets on the bus and he says, the main officer says to the second officer that we need to take him off the bus, and he's resisting. This is when things start getting physical, and they start grabbing Mr. X and pulling him towards the exit of the bus, pulling him two opposite directions, really, because if you think about a school bus, there's not much room to move.
Yeah, it's not, yeah.
And I can't say whether he was trying to resist from them or if he was just honestly trying to get his footing.
Okay.
But they had a scuffle, and one of the officers stepped back into one of the seats. When he steps back into the seat, they then get aggressive, and they pin him to the other seat on the ground.
Right.
Now, in this point, I feel like this is going too far.
Okay.
And I start, really from the point they got on the bus, I've been recording.
Okay.
Everything on video, making sure that should he go to court, we have, evidence.
Yes. When you started recording and they have him pinned in the seat, what were you asking the officers?
Well, when I first started recording was when he stepped on the school bus.
Okay.
And then when they start moving him around and everything, then they get to the pin part. While all this is happening, all I'm doing is I'm not blocking them from stopping what they're doing.
Right.
I'm not on top of them. I'm not touching them, touching him, anything like that. I'm just asking for their name and badge number.
Right.
So that way, if need be, these people can be, identified, right? Because that's the only way you can identify a police officer is if you know who they are.
Yeah.
And at this point, none of the officers are answering me. They don't want to tell me what their name or badge number is. They're just telling me to back up. back up.
Right.
And me, there's a seat here, and then there's a seat in front of it. I'm behind them, just recording everything, over them, making sure nothing's happening. While recording, I happened to see that the officer's hand was a little further over towards his neck. Not saying he was choking him or anything, but I just asked him, why are you holding him like that? Why are you gripping him like that? And as I ask him, he kind of slips his hand off to the side.
Yeah. And
from there, we have, I believe, 2 or 3 more officers get on the school bus. And at that point, they all moved Aaron off. Mr. X off. Okay. They moved Mr. X off. They then carry him in handcuffs and drag him across the street to a parking lot where they had another car waiting, and they're going to put him in, right? So they're searching him, and, I get off the bus to go over here and make sure nothing else is happening. Right. Also to go over there and get his stuff from him, because either it was get his stuff or give it to them. Gotcha. And when I start approaching them, I keep recording, and I start approaching them and I'm letting them know, I'm not trying anything. I'm just coming to get his stuff from him.
It's legal to record police officers.
Right. They tell me that's fine, I can get his stuff. Just let them make sure he doesn't have anything that could get him in trouble. Right. None of that was found, anything like that. I get his stuff, and they take him, I guess, to YDC. I don't know. Okay. YDC is the Youth Detention Center. Yeah. Right. Okay. Then I just went home, and that was really the end of it for that day for me. Okay. And do you remember what day of this week this was? Wednesday, Thursday, Friday? I believe it happened on a Wednesday.
Okay.
Not too sure on that, but I'm pretty sure it was on the Wednesday. I know it could have been towards the end of the week. It was from Wednesday to Friday. Those are the only days it could have occurred.
Gotcha. And so all of this started because some rambunctious high schoolers yelled out of a school bus window at some police officers. And they yelled F12, right? And then was it something about a pink police car?
Oh, yeah. I think it might not have happened until they started conversating or whatever. Okay. But then he makes a comment about the car being pink.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I saw that in the video. So here's what I saw from the video, because again, like I said earlier, there's video of both of these incidents. And from what I saw with the incident with Mr. X, the police officer came on the bus, and like you said, he pointed at him and told him to come here and get off the bus. Right. And Mr. X was like, no, I didn't do nothing. Right. And then the officer walks very aggressively.
Yeah, chest all out.
Yeah, he walks very aggressively. The Mr. X stops about a foot in front of him and was like, you need to do what I tell you to do because I'm a police officer.
Right. It's not how it goes.
It's not absolutely legal. And when the officer says that, Mr. X says, what am I being charged with? What crime did I commit? Right. And the officer is not telling him that he has committed any crime. So Mr. X is refusing to go because I guess he felt like he didn't commit a crime. And some, people are saying free. I think he said freedom of speech. I have freedom of speech. Right. And the officer is just getting more and more agitated. Calls back up. Backup comes on. And now, I will say Mr. X was being mad disrespectful. Yeah. He was cussing, calling the cops names, dropping the N-word to the cops. But none of that is illegal or criminal. And so he's refusing to come off the bus. He's steady talking. He's cussing. I see 2 grown men grab this young man who is 14 years old and maybe 100 pounds. Yeah. Soaking wet. Like this, he was very thin young man. Like I'm thin. This young man was short and thin. Yeah. And so I didn't feel like it took 2 police officers, like you said, to grab him, and they're pulling him in different directions. Yeah. And that's when I saw Mr. X snatch away. Yeah. And he wasn't throwing a punch. He wasn't pushing. He was snatching away because he was being accosted by 2 grown men. Right. With badges who were supposed to be serving and protecting the public, the community, especially our youth.
Yeah.
Right? So once he starts struggling, I guess the officers get aggravated.
Yeah.
They fall into this other seat, this empty bus seat. And to your point, the second officer's hand was around the young man's neck, Mr. X.
Not per se around his neck, but more like pressed into the side of his neck.
Pressed into the side.
Yeah.
Okay. I just know I saw his hand kind of like this. But then I did see him move it.
Yeah, because I had asked him.
Said something.
Yeah.
So my thing is, I like the way you were respectfully asking for the officers' name and badge numbers, which you have every legal right to do. I Googled it on GeorgiaLegalAid.org, and it says your rights in the police. It gives a couple of paragraphs, but down in the last paragraph, it says, do not argue, resist, run away, interfere with, or obstruct the officer, even if you are innocent or believe the officer is wrong. You can be arrested for it. You can ask for the officer's name and badge number. If your request for information is refused, note the information you can see and file a complaint later if you feel your rights have been violated. Do you think they violated Mr. X's rights?
I do. I think that once they took it from just asking him to get off the bus into, manhandling, basically, yanking him both ways, pushing him onto the ground, I don't think any of that ever should have occurred.
Okay.
Especially being that he's a minor.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah.
He's a minor. They didn't tell him what he was being charged with. And I don't think they called his parents.
No, they just took him straight off the bus and into the police car.
Right. That's the issue for me, too, because if you're going to be handling children, arresting them in any manner, you need to get in touch with, especially when they haven't done. Now, if he had done something, threw something out of the car and it hit the cops out of the window, or something, then you can arrest him because he's committed a crime.
But just saying something to you is not a crime.
Right. So to me, I felt like the cops was a little too sensitive and took offense to it. Took offense to what Mr. X said to him. And once he took offense to it, he came on the bus bloviating and poking his chest out, trying to be the big bad bully with a badge.
Right.
And trying to intimidate Mr. X really is what it looked like to me.
Honestly, yeah.
Trying to intimidate him. And so that situation was quite unfortunate, but you do have the right to ask for a name and badge number. You said they arrested him, and I understand you got arrested a couple of days later.
Yeah.
Tell me what happened with that situation.
So after the incident with the bus, the principal from the school had contacted my mom and told her that we need to set up a meeting to discuss whether I was going to be expelled from school or not.
Okay, and you were going to be possibly expelled for doing exactly what?
From my understanding and from what he said is I caused another student to get rambunctious or agitated, which resulted in an incident and the bus being stopped and, just causing a commotion.
So is he saying you're the one that got Mr. X to do what he did?
Yeah, he's basically saying that he was following me by example. And that I caused him. I'm like pretty much saying that I made him do it, which I don't understand how I could make someone say something.
So you said something out of a window that was not criminal.
No.
Someone followed what you did and repeated it, which is not criminal.
No.
But both of you were arrested and charged with. Well, you don't have to say what Mr. X was charged with. What were you charged with?
I got disorderly conduct, which is kind of like a sketchy law to describe. Okay. And then
The best way I describe it is a gray charge.
A gray charge.
Right.
Gray area. Got you.
And then I got obstruction of a police officer.
And how did you obstruct the officer?
From what I was told, not even when I went to the jail or when I was arrested, when I finally made it to court for the first time, was that I have the obstruction charge for him asking me to back up on the school bus, and I refused. That's what I have the obstruction charge for. Not for even blocking him from reaching Mr. X or, anything like grabbing them or stopping them from doing their job besides just speaking to them.
Right. So he asked you to back up. You didn't back up. Like you said earlier, there's not a lot of room on the bus in the first place. And you were trying to make sure they weren't
mishandling the situation.
Yeah, mishandling the young man, which they did.
Yeah.
And so when you got arrested that following Monday, incident, what happened there?
So like I said, I was called in to have a meeting with the principal, whether I was going to continue going to Woodstock for the rest of my senior year or if I was going to be expelled and have to go to an alternative school for the rest of the year.
Wow.
I come to the school. When I get there, I kind of feel like things are already off because on a normal day basis at my school, there's only one school cop there.
Okay.
When I come in this day, there's a school cop plus a regular uniformed police officer in the office.
Okay.
So automatically, I'm feeling anxious, I have this conversation with the principal. He's telling me, we're going to expel you. And I'm telling him, like, this is going to impede me from graduating on time because
right, yeah.
You get expelled from the school, then you have to go through a tribunal process. You got to go and sit down in front of a board, which really doesn't matter. If you get sent to it, you're going to, you're going to get kicked out of the school.
Right.
And if I did that, that could have pushed me back, 6 weeks, and that's a lot of time to lose when I'm trying to graduate this year.
Right.
But he's informing me that there's nothing he can do for me. I caused this scene, a situation.
The principal is telling you that?
Yes.
Okay.
He's just talking to us, and my mom starts to get emotional because she's thinking like this is gonna ruin my future.
Yeah.
Because you're throwing my child out of school for something he didn't even really cause.
Right.
At that moment, my mom felt that there was no other reason for us to be there because we got our answer. He was gonna expel me from school, and that was that. We get up, we leave his office. We're coming out to get into the main office from the hallway, and I immediately have the school police officer and the regular uniformed police officer approach me, telling me I'm not allowed to leave the school campus until a Woodstock PD officer comes up here to talk to me.
Okay.
At this point, they're walking me out of the school, and my mom is talking back and forth with them, telling them like I should be able to take my child, like he's my son, like
right.
I should be able to leave with him.
Right.
And they're telling her, no ma'am, he cannot leave. We have a Woodstock PD officer coming up here. Now, when my mom starts asking him what for, why this is happening, an officer, the regular uniformed officer, he kind of caught a tone with my mom.
Okay.
And I kind of said something about that. I was like, there's no reason to be talking to my mom like that.
Right.
And then after that, I'm recording this too. Once they tell me you can't leave, I start recording. I set my phone up because they have like these brick seating in front of it. I'm sitting on there waiting for this Woodstock police officer to go up. Now I have my phone propped up to where I can see me and the two officers behind me.
Right.
Now this whole time, they're both just smiling. They're grinning, acting like what they're doing is so great.
Yeah.
And
like they done caught a mass murderer or something.
Right. And so I think maybe almost 10 minutes go by, and finally a Woodstock police officer pulls up. He pulls up, he gets out of his car, and he starts talking to the school cops. He doesn't say nothing to me,
right.
anything to my mom. He starts talking to them, and he's like, he kind of mumbles something about a warrant. I don't know if he said I don't have it or if it's on the way, something in those lines. But he goes, should we just go ahead and take him? And at that moment, my mom's like, what? Like, go ahead and take him. Like, I need to know what he's being arrested for. Like, just worried.
Yeah.
And he's like, Cameron has a warrant for his arrest. And there's another Woodstock police officer on the way up here with the arrest warrant.
Okay.
He starts coming towards me, to put me in handcuffs. Now, when he comes towards me, I'm still recording, and he grabs my my right wrist, and he turns it around my back so that way I would drop my phone.
Yeah.
He then grabs my phone and drops it face down so that no more of the camera can see. Right.
Yeah.
I then say, Mom, pick my phone up before they stop the video.
Yeah.
At that time, the officer goes, like the video you posted to YouTube. Now, there was a video of the incident that made it out onto the internet.
Okay, someone posted it to YouTube.
I guess so. I don't know. Somehow it made its way to Worcester. Okay.
Okay.
But
you didn't do that.
No, I didn't post it. It was it was. If you look at the video, I think it's the one you might have seen. It's from a kid's Snapchat. Okay. And you can see his name in the top left corner of the video.
Oh yeah, I did see that.
Yeah, and they're trying to tell me that I'm the one who posted the video.
Wow.
The other police officer pulls up, which subsequently happens to be one of the officers that was on the bus that day.
Okay.
He pulls up. They put me in the back of his police car. He's telling me, really not telling me anything. I'm just sitting in the back of his car, and he's on his walkie-talkie, getting information, typing on his computer. He then gets out with this warrant. I don't know if it really was or wasn't, but he shows it to my mom, and it shows the 2 charges that are listed, which are disorderly conduct and obstruction.
Okay.
My mom's hysterical. She's crying. She doesn't understand why I'm really supposed to be. Why I have a warrant out for arrest for something that happened on the bus. If it was that serious, why was I not arrested on the bus?
Time. Yeah. Right. Yeah. I would think that would have been the case.
Right.
I didn't think you could arrest people after an incident like that.
Well, if it's as serious as they say it is, you're supposed to be arrested
on the spot.
Right there on the spot.
Right.
So I can't speak to this. Wait 3-4 days and issue a warrant.
Right.
And then come make a scene at the school to arrest you.
Right.
In front of the school. I just don't understand why they would do that. So how did that make you feel when all this is going on and you're being arrested in front of your peers at the school?
When I realized, because in the office, there's students around, and then you go out in the hallway and there's students everywhere.
Yeah.
I'm just sitting here thinking, what are they thinking about me? I'm getting walked out of the school by 2 cops.
Yeah.
And I'm just sitting here thinking, they're really just trying to show that if you step out of line, this is going to happen to you.
They were trying to make an example out of you.
Right.
Allegedly. And possibly embarrass you.
Yeah. But it's just making me think y'all are going to stain my reputation, making me look like I'm a criminal.
Right.
When really I have done nothing criminal.
Really, you were standing up.
Right, I was standing up for my friend who I felt was being violated.
Recording and asking for their name and badge number.
Right.
So why did you feel the need to do that?
To ask for their name and badge numbers?
To stand up for your friend, to record, to make sure they didn't do too much to them, to ask for their badge and number, ID number. Why did you feel the need to do that?
I guess it can go back, to when I was younger. I've always been taught that when it comes to law enforcement, you gotta protect yourself because you don't know which way it can go.
Right. Yeah.
And so now, and then you go on the news and you hear about a black man or something like that, a minority being shot by a police officer, and there's really no context on why it happened. He was a threat, and I don't want that to be in my case, so I always record that way. Should something happen or should we go to court, I can show that this is what I'm doing and I'm not doing anything wrong, you know. I started asking for names and stuff because I knew they was going to get in trouble.
Yeah.
I knew that it was going to go further than just a conversation with him.
Yeah.
I started getting names because I know that once he goes in, they're going to try and, mess with him or try to get him to seem like he actually did do something wrong.
Right. So let me ask you this. Because I understand you were offered a plea deal for your 2 charges, right?
Well, not per se a plea deal, but she told me that if I plead guilty today, I can get the judge to lessen time on probation. I can get them to cut back the sentence a little bit, which pretty much is a plea deal. And I'm sitting here thinking, like, I'm not gonna take something like this when I know I didn't do anything wrong.
Right.
And I can
take you for that.
Right. I can take in, prove that I'm innocent, and by taking that, that's just me showing guilt and trying to get out of it with less trouble.
It's you admitting guilt and making their job a lot easier.
Right.
Yeah.
And I don't know. It's just like it's. I don't want to say traumatizing because it's not.
No, that's a good word to use.
Traumatizing for sure.
That trauma is a good word to use, and I say that because this trauma has been happening to minorities in this country since the inception of this country.
Right.
So this is nothing new.
It's nothing new,
which kind of makes it even more disturbing because this country is almost 230 years old, something like that, and minorities in this country always catch the short end of the stick. And they trick a lot of us with these plea deals.
Right.
Oh, you're going to face 40 to 50 years if you don't take this plea.
Trying to intimidate you so that they don't investigate on you.
And making their jobs a lot easier.
Right.
And too many times we fall into that trap either because we're scared or because we know we don't have the money to fight the case like we should. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And in either one of those situations, we're catching a short end of the stick.
Yeah. And they know that. They know it's going to happen.
Right. They absolutely know that. So I'm actually saying the same thing I asked Paul. What do you want to be the end result of this situation?
Honestly, at the end of it, I don't want to have these 2 charges on my name because, like you said, any interaction with the law enforcement, no matter how little, if they see disorderly behind your name, they're automatically going to take more precaution or be more aggressive because they think you're going to act out some type of way.
Absolutely.
And not even just that, going into, like Paul, if that goes on his record, that ruins his job.
Yep.
You can't, there's certain jobs you can't have.
You can't get,
And that will put a stain on my future that I don't need for something so minor,
Right.
Something you don't deserve.
Right. And I don't think either one of you deserve this. I don't think either one of you deserve to be in the situations that you're in, especially there's video evidence out there.
Yeah, we have 2 widely different cases, but yet we got the exact same charges.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's crazy to me. Because you're right. It is 2 very different cases, and you have the exact same charges that could follow you for the rest of your life. And you're 27. You're how old?
18.
You're 18.
Just turned 18.
Just turned 18. So, and you mentioned earlier about the cops who were arresting you grinning while they were standing behind you on your phone. And Paul, when we were at the Internal Affairs office today, and we were watching the body cam footage after they've arrested you, you can hear the arresting officer laughing about what he did to you. Yeah. So why do you think that is? How does the laughter make y'all feel knowing the severity of y'all situation?
It almost makes me feel like, it makes me feel like they're taking advantage. They know that what they're doing is wrong. Right. But they also know at the same time that they're not going to get in trouble for it.
Yeah, and
that's funny to them, But
what about you, Paul?
It's a total abuse of power. They know they're abusing power, and they're going to get away with it. Right. And particularly for my case, because the officer turns on the camera after the situation already looks negatively in my favor.
Exactly. Right. Exactly. And I think one of you mentioned earlier that it almost makes it seem like they're proud of abusing their power, and they're proud of potentially ruining a young man's life for a very long time. You know what I mean? And to me, that's more bully behavior.
Yeah. We were non-violent, and yet at both situations, the officers had this gave us the sense they had pride in what they just did.
Right. All right. We got to get ready to get out of here, man. I'm going to ask each of you this question, and you can answer. I'm going to start with you, Paul. What have you learned from your situation?
Well, got to be a lot more careful with my skin. I mean, not just my skin tone, but having my dog with me. In general, when dealing with cops.
Yeah.
I have friends and family that are cops that I can trust, but now every time I'm going to have an interaction with a random police officer, I don't have to worry if this could be another situation like at school.
Right. And that can make a person fearful to even leave the house. You know what I mean?
The first week, it triggered my depression because the whole reason I was, that was the first day back for me. Not only was it the first day of the semester, but I took a semester off for mental health because I had a suicide attempt back in July.
Sorry to hear that.
So I took my fall semester off to focus on my mental health. And my first day back, I get arrested for having my service dog on campus.
Wow. Well, I'm glad you made it through that situation over the summer. I'm glad you're still here with us. But that's pretty serious.
Yeah, it triggered my depression. I was crying every day for the entire week. The first 3 days, I couldn't get sleep whatsoever.
Yeah, that's called trauma. That's trauma. Post-traumatic stress disorder.
And I even contemplating dropping out altogether.
And that wouldn't help you out for your future.
No.
At all.
I still might have to because I'm so far behind in school. It's not even funny now.
Well, I hope that you should probably go to another school. Let me just say that because the school didn't help your situation at all.
Yeah.
Cameron, what did you learn from your situation?
Maybe when it comes to interactions with the police, if you're less vocal, but you just have to be more careful with how you approach them and how you approach a situation with the police, because it could come out positively or it could be like it is now and it can affect you negatively on your future, you know? And it showed me that with being that I got arrested and now I have to face these charges, it showed me that filming and making sure you get your side of what's happening is a key factor to it.
Very important.
Because it can take you from being completely guilty with no proof of what you're doing to having a chance of overturning something.
Right. Okay. Well, I want to thank both of you young gentlemen for being here today and sharing your perspective, your side of the story. Again, we were not here to berate the cops or talk down them, because we know it's not all cops, but it is too many of them.
Yeah.
And so I commend you guys for coming in and having your voices be heard, because that's why I wanted to have you all here, so that you could have your story be told and not let the cops tell your story for you. What I've learned from both of your situations is that we still have a lot of work to do as far as mending the relationship between our community and police officers.
Yeah.
Because this stuff that's happening with y'all, I told y'all during the break, I had something similar happen to me 30 years ago.
Right.
When I was 17, and it's still going on to this day. And it should not still be that way. It should not be where we still have police abusing their power. We still have police able to change reports and doctor evidence and all of that stuff. I've read 3 articles in the past month about officers in Oakland, officers in Miami, and officers in Mississippi. And the article I read in Mississippi said that the officers there have framed thousands of young black men with false arrests, fake evidence, doctoring evidence, all of this stuff. So this is going on across the whole country. It's not just Georgia. You know, as much as we like to talk about Georgia and being in the Bible Belt, being in the South, it's still going on too much today, and something needs to be done about it, because it has the potential to ruin so many young people's lives.
Right.
Like, I couldn't imagine being framed as a teenager by a police officer, and now I got to do 10, 20 years in jail.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's crazy. And I think it's the responsibility of our federal government to do something about the people that they're hiring to be in these positions of authorities. Whether it's, a lot of people like to make it about training.
Yeah.
It's not about training to me, but if people want to say they need to be trained better, then train them better. If they want to give them psych evaluations to make sure they're fit to be in that position, then do that. But whatever it is, there has to be something that will mend this rift between minority communities and the police that are supposed to be serving and protecting those communities. Like, it's been going on too long. It's been going on since the inception of this country, and something needs to be done about it because it's become an epidemic. We have to deal with bullies in school. We have to deal with bullies on our job. We shouldn't have to deal with being bullied by the people who are supposed to be serving and protecting us. So, and it causes long-term trauma. Like, when I was watching your video today, Paul, I'm thinking about my situation when I was younger and what happened to me. And it brings all of those memories flooding back. I could feel the cold barrel of the gun pressed against my temple because this cop thought I was breaking into cars, which I wasn't doing. And it just made me feel this great sadness for me, for you, and for anybody else that goes through this.
Right.
Because it is just that. It's traumatizing. And that sticks with you. And it causes you to have a negative view of the people that you're supposed to be able to turn to for help. And so that's all I have to say, man. I just really want something to be done about all of the false arrests, all of the innocent minorities in prison, all of the labeling and judging and just all of it. Something needs to be done. So with that being said, we're going to conclude the show. Again, thank you very much, gentlemen. It takes a lot of courage to stand up to adults, to stand up to bullies, to stand up to adults who are bullies. So I commend both of you for that.
I just want to thank you for the opportunity to get my story out there and have it heard by people.
Yes, sir. You got anything, last words, Paul? Y'all want to shout anybody out?
Shout out to my moms. I love you.
Keep an eye out for my name and my game company coming out.
You want to give it to us?
Oblivion Oddities Project Studios.
Oblivion Oddities Project Studios.
Yes.
Okay. I would like to give a shout out to Robin Eller for having the courage to allow me to be a part of these situations. I want to give a shout out to my man Larry, who gave her my information so she could call me. Larry is a good dude. He does a lot in the community, and he fights for the rights of people also. So shout out to Robin, shout out to Larry. Wish you could have been here, Larry. Again, thank you, gentlemen, for being bold enough to come on and share your stories with the community. Okay. I got a little emotional there at the end because I'm just tired of this, man. Like, I do a lot of reading. Mm-hmm. I know a lot of people. Just about every black man I grew up with had a story like this. And to just know it's 30 years later from when my incident happened, and it's just still, it seems like it's gotten worse.
Yeah.
Time is supposed to make things better. It seems like it's gotten worse. So hopefully we can find a solution to this very serious epidemic. Okay, with that being said, I'm going to bring it back. We're going to transition to something a little bit more positive and upbeat, and that is my Scholars of the Week. Okay, my first Scholars of the Week goes to the 700 students. Oh, I thought I had this. 700 students at the Michigan Elementary School that honored Dr. King by making feathers making angel wings out of feathers. And what they did was on the feathers, they wrote positive messages about how they could be kind to other people. It was 700 students at Knapp Forest Elementary School in Grand Rapids, Michigan. All 700 participated in creating a message of love and kindness on their feathers. The feathers were shaped into wings for the school-wide art project. Let's see here. The wings were displayed in the school's main hall, which has the main message of "I can soar with kindness by ... The television station reported some of the messages on the feathers that complete the thought read, "I can soar with kindness by thinking of others before myself, and I can soar with kindness by accepting others' differences." One of the parents from the school said that the wings were a celebration of diversity. And above the Angel Wing Project, they had a quote from Dr. Martin Luther King, which is another one of my great quotes. And it says, if you can't fly, then run. If you can't run, then walk. If you can't walk, then crawl. But whatever you do, you have to keep moving forward. That's with anything in life. I think that's one of the greatest quotes that he has ever said. And with that, my last scholars of the week go to my in-studio guests, Mr. Paul Eller and Mr. Cameron Grace, for having the boldness to come in here and to share their stories. I know this can be a scary situation, which is why I wanted to go with you all to the body cam viewing today, just to be there for moral support, if for nothing else. And the great Nelson Mandela said that he learned that courage is not the absence of fear, but the triumph over fear. The brave man is not he who does not feel afraid, but he who conquers that fear. So, when I was going to the Athens Police Department today, I was nervous as a black man with locks in my hair, you know what I mean? But I don't do fear. I don't let fear rule my life. And I knew there was a need that needed to be met, so I met it. Also, for my last Scholar of the Week, congratulations to Pathway Christian Church Youth Nicholas Clyde on being selected to speak today at Ebenezer Baptist Church for the King Holiday Observance. Hey, okay, that's all right. Also, congratulations to Noah Hurt for being selected to serve on an entrepreneurial panel at the MLK March Committee Youth Conference. That's pretty impressive too. We got to get these young people into being youth entrepreneurs. Both of these young men did an amazing job representing their family and their church. We are so proud of you both. Great job, gentlemen. Keep up the good work and keep up the good fight. And whatever you do, keep moving forward. That's it for WCEG TalkRadio.com, Conversations in Education. I'm your host, Vincent Cheeks. Tune in next time and we'll bring you another great show coming from the community. Peace.